You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast, season 2, episode 32, Cubs meltdown in Miami. Don't forget to listen, download, review, and most importantly, subscribe to our podcast and to follow us on all the socials, Fly the W670 on Twitter, Instagram, and Fly the W on Facebook. Of course, you can email us, flythew670gmail.com. Segment 1, Crawly, the Cubs Marlins recap, and unfortunately, no flying the W down in Miami.
You know, I said it when we recorded last week. I hate when they play down there. I just always have a bad feeling about it. I don't know why. And there is no, I looked at the numbers and it's not like they are horrible in that ballpark. I don't know why. I just hate it. I just do. And I didn't like it going into it. And I like it even less after this weekend.
Yeah, you couldn't like it coming out. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, game 1 saw Marcus Stroman versus Jesus Luzardo, and we talked about this. We knew it was going to be a good pitching matchup, and it was. The Cubs lost this one 3-2. Some key takeaways from this one. Good pitchers duel like we expected. Stroman went 6.1 innings. He gave up 6 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, and 3 strikeouts. Luzardo went the exact same distance, 6.1 innings. He gave up 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, but had 6 strikeouts. So that's the big difference between Luzardo and
it's the case. Right, it's the case.
6 Ks versus 3. Every time the Cubs gave Stroh the lead, a walk led to the equalizing run. So Nelson Velasquez back. We'll talk about that more a little bit later, but he homers in the third, and that's all good. But then at the bottom of the third, Stroh walks the first guy, faces Jesus Sanchez, and this was just the formula for the Marlins all weekend. Get on base with a hit or a walk. And then Sanchez steals second, so they would steal, and then they would kind of reach on then they would score on a single, which is exactly what happened here. So Stroh walks Jesus Sanchez, he steals second, reaches third on a single by Nick Fortes, and ties it up on a John Purdy double play. Top of the 7th, Cody Bellinger triples with 1 out, scores on a single by Eric Hosmer for a 2-1 Cubs lead. Then again in the bottom, instead of a leadoff walk, it was a 1-out walk to Luis Arraez, who reached third on an Avisail Garcia single and scores on a Gene Segura single to tie the game. So, the walks came to hurt Stroh, and they didn't when it comes to Luzardo because the strikeout was able to help him out,
Yeah, listen, it's not just the Cubs, it's anybody. Walks will absolutely kill you. Untimely walks will kill you. When you have low-scoring games like all of these, basically, the majority of these games were low-scoring, you can't give free passes, and the Cubs are going to pay for this the entire weekend.
Yep, and the other thing I wanted to kind of really point out here is bullpens. When you talk about the Cubs bullpen versus the Marlins bullpen, we talked to Alex Kritchik of the Fish Stripes podcast, and he talked so highly of the bullpen they had of Dylan Floro and A.J. Puck. So when you got a setup man like Dylan Floro in the 8th and you got A.J. Puck in the 9th, you feel comfortable if you're in these close games. And A.J. Puck has been awesome as Miami's closer. He's been in 10 games, 11 innings pitched. He has 3 wins. He's 4-4 save opportunities, so that's 5 of 5 after today. He's given up 1 earned run, 1 home run, .82 ERA, 12 Ks, and 2 walks. The Cubs, they don't have an established closer. Fulmer, Hughes, and Assad have all blown saves. This time on Friday night, game 1, Michael Rucker was given the ball in the 9th. And you know what? He's been really good up to this point, but some guys are not cut up for that role. And you could see the adrenaline threw him off. He comes in, he gives up a single to Soler. He hits 2 batters in a row, Luis Arraez and Avisail Garcia. And then he gave up a single to Gene Segura, walks it off. And so the 2 key points, Dustin, that you look at this weekend, number 1 are walks, number 2, bullpen, number 3, runners in scoring position. And this is going to be the constant theme on all 3 games we talk about. This day, the first game, Friday night, Cubs went 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position, 7 left on base. Seiya Suzuki in particular had an awful game, 0 for 4, 1 K, 4 left on base, and he grounded into 2 double plays.
Yeah, disappointing. There's no doubt about that. I mean, this is only game 1 that we're talking about. We're about to talk to 2 more. I mean, I guess if there's a positive, to take from this game is that they tried something different at the back end. I mean, were you okay that they tried something different in the 9th inning?
I didn't think that Rucker has closer stuff. No, I
Who
like
would you have liked to have seen? But I mean, I guess my point is, Crawly, are you glad they tried something different? I mean, maybe it's Estrada, your guy, right? But it's something different.
right.
Right? It wasn't it wasn't the broken record. I mean, Fulmer doesn't have it. Like we all know that. So they had to do something different. This time they tried Rucker. Now they know Rucker doesn't have it, right? So it's
in general, I've talked about it before. I'd like to see Alzolay, maybe see how he does in that. I know though right now he has a lot of value in that multi-inning role, but if you're asking me what I would like to have seen tried, I think Alzolay has the stuff, and I think that he's not going to be as affected in the ninth inning, but it is what it is, right?
all right. Let's try. Hey, I could get on board with that, Crawly. I could get on board with Alzolay next. Let's talk about runners in scoring position. That's going to be a bad theme for our Cubs the whole weekend.
Yeah, it really was. So we get to game 2, and you have Caleb Kililan versus Edward Cabrera, and the Cubs lost this one 7-6. Key takeaways from this game: Caleb was not ready for prime time. Now, I did talk to Alex Cohen. You guys will hear that in segment 2, and he kind of explained a little bit. His routine really got out of whack. He hadn't pitched in 10 days, and it really showed in the first inning. He just wasn't, they were all over him. This is how it's going to play out. Single, strikeout, single, hit by pitch, strikeout, ground rule double, hit by pitch, walk, single, walk, hit by pitch, ground out. And after one inning, the Cubs were down 5-0. He settled down.
Very hard to come back. Very hard to come back from that, Crawly. Very, very hard. Very hard to come back from 5-0 in the first inning.
Right, and Kilian settled down after the first, but that wasn't the start the Cubs were looking for, especially with the amount that they've had to go to the bullpen. And this all kind of starts when you lose a starter like Jamison Tyone. And after the game, David Ross said what we all knew. He's not ready, quote unquote. He's still got learning to do, still needs seasoning. So don't give up.
What do you make it? Hold on a minute. Let's not just brush that off. You point that you delivered that quote for our audience for a reason, Crawly. You point that out.
Right. And the reason,
you know me. I'm Mr. Read between the lines. What do you think that means?
Nothing.
What is he saying? Is he saying something about the front office? Did they push it down his throat? Did he want to go a different direction? It doesn't seem like to me that the two sides. We are going to have Carter Hawkins on Mully and Haugh on Wednesday this week coming up. It seems like I'm reading into it, and I've been known to do that, but it doesn't seem like it. I feel like he was not happy with front office telling him to start Caleb Kililan that day.
The job when you sit there and you have these things, it's not David Ross who calls up individual guys. It's always going to be the front office. I don't read too much into it other than he's not ready to be a major league starter yet. He's got learning to do, and that's it. There's mechanical issues.
But weren't there better options? What happened to us? Where was Assad? Why couldn't we have had a bullpen day? Why couldn't we have had 2 innings, and get us somewhere? Why did we have to bring up a guy to give up 5 in the first inning?
I think they wanted to see what he could do.
Well, now we know.
Now we
not
know
enough.
Now
we know not enough.
Not ready.
And he's already been sent back, right? He's already been shipped out of.
Yeah.
He was on a one-way ticket out of Miami. Didn't get to fly on the nice Air Ricketts back home. He was shipped out early.
So I'm sure he's on the Air Ricketts, but it's they wouldn't send him all the way back. But
Southwest middle seat.
You give him the Frank Schwindel treatment. All right. So as we sit here, going down 5-0, that's not great. The offense had 6 runs on 9 hits, Dustin, but they missed numerous opportunities to add more runs. They struck out a whopping 16 times and left 9 men on base, 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position. Seiya Suzuki grounded into another double play, but what we have to talk about are the Cubs hitters with the bases loaded in this game because it was maddening. In the top of the third, Marlins starter Edward Cabrera walks the bases loaded. Okay? Walks the bases loaded, no outs. Seiya Suzuki comes up the bat and he gets a battered timer violation. He gets an automatic strike when the guy can't throw strikes. He gave him a strike. You can't do that. And then worked a full count before swinging at ball 4. It was just, and then Cody Bellinger strikes out on a full count before Trey Mancini grounds out. bases loaded, no outs, no runs. You can't do that. And you know what I mean? It's not like it was the bottom of the order either. And then
No, I mean, it's a recipe. It's a recipe for disaster. That's, you know.
Then you get into the top of the sixth. Andrew Nardi replaces Cabrera. Bellinger hits a homer. Then Mancini, Hosmer, and Wisdom all singled to load the bases with no outs. David Ross calls on Nick Madrigal to pinch hit for Tucker Barnhart.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that, by the way.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Miami counters calling Huascar Brazan out of the pen. And so he's going to go that way. He's going to go with the righty. And then Ross calls on Edwin Rios to pinch hit a lefty. That's 3 hitters burned by Ross. Rios strikes out, so you got 1 out, right? Bases loaded. Nico Horner hits a sac fly, and Eric Hosmer gets caught in between second and third to get doubled up to end the inning. So you had the bases loaded, 1 out, and you only got 1 run in that situation. So just to recap for the audience right here, you had bases loaded, no outs, and you got 0 runs. You got bases loaded, 1 out, and you got 1 run. So now we get to the top of the 8th. Bellinger and Mancini walk. Nelson Velasquez grounds into a force out. Runners at the corners, 1 out. Wisdom walks. You got bases loaded, 1 out. Yan Gomes hits a chopper. Gene Segura throws it to second. Wisdom, and he's safe. A run scores. Bases still loaded. Cubs make it 9-5, but then Nico grounds out. A run scores. Cubs are down 7-6. And then with 2 outs, runners at second and third. Swanson pops out, and the inning ends. So you really
now stop right there. Do not let this go, because this Crawly, this is my biggest takeaway from the entire weekend. That game was on Fox. It's a nationally televised game. I'm shocked that it was a nationally televised game. AJ Przinsky's on the call. The Cubs are down 5-0. They do a great job. They didn't quit. They could have easily quit. They did not quit. They battle back. You know, Dansby Swanson can't just be here for leadership and defense. That was a moment where you needed Dansby Swanson to show up. That's why you pay hundreds of millions of dollars for people. Okay, you could have anybody do what Dansby Swanson did in that situation. That wasn't even warning track. That was just Haugh Harrelson, right? Can of corn. There was nothing to that. And that was very disappointing. Like, I need more. I need more from a supposed leader of this team than to do that on national television. You can just say, it's just 1 at bat. Everything's just 1 at bat. That was. Am I? Go ahead. Am I overreacting? But to me, that was a real letdown that he did not produce in that situation.
You mentioned a couple things, and the one thing I do want to address is I will give this team and David Ross credit for not giving up. Then again, that doesn't get you any more points or any more, anything in the win column there. And so I think there was a lot of guys. I think this was a whole weekend of guys not delivering. And yes, Dansby Swanson's the highest paid one, and he's in a cold slump right now. And so I had to get that. But to me, there were so many frustrating at-bats. I mean, Seiya Suzuki, you're talking about one of your highest paid players getting an automatic strike called on him. You look at that. You got guys all over the place that had opportunities, and nobody could get the big hit. And Dansby Swanson is the guy getting paid the most, so it looks worse. But again, with 2 outs, you had other opportunities to score more runs, and you didn't do it. And it happened nonstop this weekend.
Yeah, nonstop. You're right. It wasn't just Dansby Swanson, but boy, Saturday, I'm sorry, Crawly. Saturday just chapped my ass when he was in that situation, big time moment, and he just did not deliver.
Yep. And now we kind of go in with a little bit of a rerun here, because in Game 3, Justin Steele versus Brian Hoeing, we're thinking to ourselves, this is the matchup. At least it won't get swept. Wrong. Cubs lose 3-2. Some things that I had written down about this game. Steele with another great game. 6 innings pitched, 7 hits, 3 runs. Only 2 of them earned. 1 walk, 3 Ks. He had trouble in the 3rd inning. He gave up a leadoff double. Garrett Hampton doubled. John Birdie singled. Runners at the corners. Then a weird play. Steele strikes out Garrett Cooper, but a pass ball on Yan Gomes allows Hampton to score. Birdie makes it with his speed all the way to 3rd. And then Luis Arias singles to give the Marlins a 2-1 lead. Soler was hit by a pitch to load the bases with one out, but Gene Segura grounded into a double play to end the inning. He would allow one other run to score in the fourth, but that was it. So 2 earned runs once again by Justin Steele. Another great start. Here's something that Jordan Bastian tweeted out. Longest consecutive start streaks with no more than 2 earned runs allowed in Cubs modern history. I know you love the early ones here. 15 starts with 2 or less runs allowed by Jack Taylor in 1902. 14, Jake Arrieta, that great run from 2015, 2016 that we all remember. And now Justin Steele with an active streak of 13, 2022 to 2023. I don't know anything about Jack Taylor. I'm not going to pretend to. But when you tell me that you're at some pitching staff equal to Jake Arrieta between 2015 and 2016, that's pretty darn impressive.
Crawly, you said it great there. Pretty darn impressive. No doubt about it. Pretty darn impressive.
Now, 3 positives for Cubs hitters in this game here, and even within this whole weekend. Cody Bellinger hit a home run in the 8th, another belly bomb.
Belly bomb!
And this is what Megan Montemurro puts up there. Cody Bellinger's 1.3 F4 leads Cubs hitters and is tied with Paul Goldschmidt and Marcus Semien for 12th best among MLB hitters. And Bellinger's F4 in the last 3 years with the Dodgers was 1.8, negative 1.14. So he is just doing phenomenal. He's also slugged 4 home runs off left-handed pitchers in 38 plate appearances this season. In the previous 3 seasons, he had 6 homers off left-handed pitchers in 339 plate appearances. I mean, that's just shocking. That's a shocking stat right there. So I don't know what he did.
Crawly, yeah, you're right. I mean, that is an absolutely shocking stat. You put it well.
You know, it's just, I mean, he literally almost has about the same amount of home runs that he's had against left-handers in 1 month compared to 3 years. So you're starting to wonder if the Bellinger comeback is real.
Can we sign him now, Crawly? Can we sign him now?
We're not signing him, but I will tell you this.
It's too early. It's too early.
Too early, and there's a guy named PCA that is sitting down there ready. He's getting fired up here.
Well, Bellinger's not taking a 1-year deal. I think that this is the lone 1-year deal that Bellinger was taking.
Yep.
I don't think he's taking another one.
Making big money, and he's going to be somewhere for a few years if this keeps up. The last one is Patrick Wisdom, who hit a home run, and he joins Alfonso Soriano in 2011 right there as the only Cub batters in the modern era since 1901 to launch 10 homers in March/April. So great to see Patrick Wisdom doing good things. But, you know, back to why the Cubs lost. The story of this entire series, the bullpen.
Left on base. Men left on base, Crawly. The bullpen and men left on base. I mean, that's it. It's very easy. It's not a science project.
Position.
Yep.
This time it was Keegan Thompson. He lead off walk. You remember when I said this last episode, one of these walks by Keegan Thompson were going to come back and bite him in the ass? I literally said it in the last episode. He walks John Birdie. I mean, you can't walk. You hate walking anybody, but a guy that can easily. When you walk John Birdie, that you've automatically given up a double, because that's going to be 2 bases. He's gonna steal a base, and that's what he did. No, he did not steal a base this time, but Jesus Sanchez singled, and that put runners at the corners. And Luis Arias hit a sac fly that gave the Marlins a 4-3 lead. The Cubs get shut down by Puck in the 9th. 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position. They left 8 men on base. There were 2 games in this series, Dustin, that the Cubs lost because of giving up runs in the 8th or 9th, and they left 24 men on base over the weekend. And when
that's not good, right? That's not good.
Not good at all. And when you talk about the weekend,
that's not good. Yeah.
When you talk about the weekend, we said left on base, and we talked about the bullpen. It shows up. The Marlins are 10-0 in 1-run games, and the Cubs are 2-5. All 3 games were decided by 1 run.
Can we talk about pitching to the best batter in baseball with the game on the line? Any problem with that?
you ended up you were in a bad situation. No matter.
Well, why not load the bases? He's the best hitter in baseball. Load the bases. No?
100% get it, and I wouldn't have had.
I mean, hindsight's 2020. I'm just telling you, as I was following along watching the game, I was with Pat and Ron at that point. I want to get your opinion on the TV broadcast. I saw a couple tweets from you. You weren't happy about the TV broadcast today.
That's awful.
But I'm like, I was yelling. I was sitting in the back of a dance competition at an old folks home in North Lake, Illinois, and screaming, walk him. And people are looking at me like, what is this guy I'm like, walk him. And they're like, what is he talking about? I'm looking at like I belong in the old folks home. Walk him. I got my earpiece in. I got my phone going. I'm listening to the app. I got 670 The Score going on my app, and I'm screaming, walk him. And no, they don't walk him. And he basically hit a ball to the wall, right?
Yeah.
And drove in the run. Load the
Both
bases. I would not. If in hindsight, I wouldn't have been, oh, why didn't you walk him? I mean, maybe there's a stat. Maybe the pitcher has a thing and he's good again. Stop it. He's the best hitter in baseball right now. Walk him.
The second that you allowed that first walk, the leadoff walk, and you had runners at first and third, then you were in really big trouble, and you would have had the bases loaded. And maybe if you wanted to, I guess I could see where you're coming from, and then play the runners in and try to get birdie at home, which. The trouble with that is you walk the fastest guy on the team. So it is going to be near impossible to gun this guy down at home. And so you are just in a bad situation. Nothing you could really do there. Soler would have been up next. He was 0 for 3, and he left 2 men on base. You had Gene Segura 0 for 4. So, yeah, it definitely could have been a move. I just kind of – I'm going to tell you honestly, Dustin, the second he walked – that first batter, the second that he walked birdie, I almost just punched out. I'm like, this is it. It's over. How stupid can you be to walk this guy? Like I said, automatic. This guy's just absolutely one of the fastest guys, and you screwed this up again. And that's where I was. So, yeah, in hindsight, it looks like it could have been a good move to try to walk him and try to do something. But even then, yeah, let someone else beat you. I agree with you on that.
You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast. It's season 2. It's episode 32, Cubs Meltdown in Miami. Unfortunately, guys, the Cubs have been swept, and they are now moving on to the Nationals. They're on a plane. Maybe they've already touched down in our nation's capital. And in this segment, Crawly continues our Down on the Farm segment as he interviews the play-by-play voice of the Iowa Cubs, Alex Cohen, where there's a lot going on in Des Moines.
Joining me now on the Fly the W podcast, we have Alex Cohen, voice of the Iowa Cubs. Alex, they say in Des Moines the S's are silent, but the city is buzzing. But what isn't silent are those iCub bats. What the heck is going on with the hitters on this team?
I don't know. Must be something in the water. You look at this offensive team. They're averaging over 8 runs per game for the entire season, not just a week, not just a 10-game stretch, for the entire season to this point. They're leading all of minor league baseball in runs per game, OPS. And then you look at this team from top to bottom, that they don't have a weakness in their lineup. They won an 18-16 game on Thursday. Then they lost 7-1 on Friday, came back and won 18-2 on Saturday. So this is an offense that can't stay silent for long. And, they really haven't. They've scored double-digit runs, 10-plus games this season. It's the best AAA offense I've ever seen.
Now, a good friend of ours, John Mully, is the hitting coach this year in Iowa. He brings the hard hat. And what have you seen with John Mully? I mean, I've gotten a chance to talk hitting with John Mully, and it's literally just blows your mind. That guy's on a different plane. What effect do you think he's having on these young iCubs?
Yeah, I think he knows more in like one finger in his left hand than he does than I do in my entire brain when it comes to hitting and stuff situationally. But I think he just provides a completely different perspective, because not only was he, up in the big leagues, he was with the Cubs when they won the World Series in 2016. So he can basically say, hey, you guys want to be world champions? do this. He doesn't do that. I mean, he's the first person in the locker room. He's the last person to leave. He's tireless. He tries to build personal relationships with every single player, and they're all different. I mean, he has a different relationship with Brendan Davis than he does with Matt Mervis, than he does with Sergio Alcantara, than he does with Jonathan Perlaza. And I think being a really good hitting coach is one, being able to manage hitters, but also being able to manage different personalities. And he does that better than really anybody I've seen, at the AAA level or really in minor league baseball in my 12 years there. So you could tell why he won a World Series ring with the Chicago Cubs and why he was in a position of that magnitude, because he just gets so much respect from the players, and he has a different relationship with all of them.
Now, I already have fans that are going to be mad that it's taken me this long to ask you this, but the two guys that Cub fans and Cubs social media have been clamoring about.
I've seen it. I've seen a lot of it.
Chris Morel and Matt Mervis. Now, hey, last time you and I talked was about a month ago, and we said, you were talking to Chris and saying, hey, it's okay, just do what they ask you to do, and you'll be up in no time.
Yeah.
Well, Morel is forcing this hand here. He's got a 363 average, 463 on base, 835 slugging.
It's
He's
insane.
got 28 home runs, 11 home runs, 28 RBIs, 8 doubles. I believe I saw him hit one over like a scoreboard the other day.
Yeah.
What are you seeing in Morel, and has that strikeout rate gone down a little bit from what you can tell?
Yeah, it has. I mean, I think his big league strikeout rate was around 32%. Now it's 25%. And I was looking at it last night. I mean, you look at some of the best players in baseball. Guess what? They strike out. Mike Trout's strikeout rate is MVP year, 26%. Aaron Judge's strikeout rate is MVP year, 25%. Christopher Morel's strikeout rate right now, 26%. So I'm not saying that he's going to be an MVP, but I'm saying, a strikeout rate isn't necessarily indicative of failure or success. It really matters for Morel. Hitting at the top of the order, he strikes out 26% of the time. What's he doing the other 74% of the at-bats? And the answer is his walk rate has skyrocketed exponentially. He's hitting everything hard. He's taking advantage of fastballs. He's taking advantage of, elevated breaking balls up in the zone. He's working a lot of pitches. So even when he is striking out, it's not the 1 strike, 2 strike, 3 strike, there's the K. It's a 6-pitch, 7-pitch at-bat. And at the leadoff spot, that's a little bit more productive than a 1-pitch pop-out. So I think he's just doing a tremendous job. People have talked about the change in the stance, dropping the hands, and you definitely do see that. But I also see a different 2-strike approach. I see him widening up the stance. I see him choking up on the bat. And even if he does strike out, he's definitely wasting a lot more pitches and seeing what the pitcher's arsenal has. So the second trip around the order, third trip around the order, hitting 410-foot bombs to dead center field. He's hitting everything hard. Everything that comes off his bat, you think that ball's going to get out or that ball's going to get to the gap. He had 7 runs batted in yesterday. He went 3 for 4, hit by a pitch, triple away from the cycle, and he was actually thrown out trying to extend a double into a triple. So he's so exciting. And I think it's actually finally starting to click. And, there's things for him to improve on too. And I think last year you saw there was a little bit hole-ish in his swing, and he's definitely improved on that. And, just remember, he's 23 years old. He's the second youngest player on this Iowa Cubs team, and he's taking AAA by storm right now. It's so much fun to watch.
Right. It's hard to preach patience when that guy's doing everything, but I swear to God, I think this was the best for his development. I'm so glad he's with Mully and getting to kind of just work on things at this level than having to face Corbin Burns or some other pitchers and trying to figure this out. I think it's good for his development. Now, the other guy that I mentioned, Matt Mervis, 274, 388, 548. He's got 6 home runs with 24 RBIs. Now, with Eric Hosmer not really doing much, I mean, to me, that's the guy right now that if you brought him up to Chicago, he would not be missing out. He wouldn't be losing at bats. He wouldn't have to be on the bench. He wouldn't have to do a lot of juggling. You know what I mean?
I do. I mean, I think it's a little bit more complicated than just, Hosmer's not doing well, send him down, because you can't. You can't option him. He doesn't have any options left. He's been in the big leagues for 11 years. I mean, he's made all-star teams. He's won World Series. So if you make that decision, it comes with certain repercussions. He's not going to AAA Iowa. He's going to another big league team, and you're missing on that clubhouse presence. I mean, there's some other roster flexibility stuff that they can do. They just got a 40-man spot open because Luis Torrens was designated for assignment. So I think the Cubs can be a little bit of creative if they want to bring Matt Mervis up. But again, Hosmer had a home run 2 days ago. He had an RBI single yesterday. You have Trey Mancini starting to heat up a little bit. And, this is a clubhouse that right now is above 500. They're playing pretty good baseball. And You don't want to mess with that continuity and that juju. And bringing a guy like Matt Mervis up, and Mervis is a great kid. Has a lot of good relationships with the players, works hard. I mean, he's everything that you would want as a baseball player. But bringing him up with all the hype, like, it will do something to the clubhouse. May it spur them? Great. May it hurt things? It might. Will it, cause a sense of urgency and the guys play better? It definitely could. So there's a variety of different outcomes that will happen when you bring Matt Mervis up to the roster because it's so anticipated. But does he deserve to be a big leaguer right now? Certainly does. I mean, the OPS has been around 900 to 1,000 all season long. He's drawing as many walks as he has strikeouts, hitting everything hard, hit a home run earlier this series, had an RBI double yesterday, and it's just a continuation from 2022, which is what the Cubs wanted. They wanted to make sure that 2022 was not a fluke or an outlier, and I think Matt Mervis is proving that it's not.
Yeah, I mean, and the good thing, like I said, is that whether you have the Bally Sports app or whether you're watching on MLB's app or whether you guys are on Marquee, we get to see these guys. And when you get to see how they're looking, it's just so hard for Cub fans to kind of just be patient because it's like, oh my God, look at these guys. Look what they're doing.
Yeah. Good things come for those who wait. And I know that you want to see Christopher Morel and you want to see Matt Mervis up, but remember, it's April. It's April and this Cubs team is over 500 and they have a top 5 offense in all of baseball. And, they have possibly 4 all-stars as position players. Like, I know it's easy for me to say, like, let's just slow the roll a little bit, but slow it down a roll for like a day. And every time the Cubs lose a game, it's not like they're going to be, 0-162. And if they win a game, it's not like they're winning the World Series. I mean, if you're a playoff team, you lose, 80, 81 times per year. I mean, that's expected. So I think this is a Cubs team that has surpassed expectations. They played really good baseball, but there's a room for them to improve, of course.
Now, the Iowa Cubs are 15-8 in the International League West, trailing only the Memphis Redbirds. God, do I hate any birds that are red.
No.
But when we talk about how great the hitting has been, it seems like, there's a lot of, maybe some struggles with the pitching staff right now. Now, I know Caleb Kililan was on, with you guys all month, and then he just made his major league debut yesterday. Didn't go great. 3.1 innings, 10 hits, 7 runs, 2 walks, and 4 Ks. I know you're so busy doing calling your own games, but were you surprised at that, or was it something that you kind of felt like a little bit nervous as he kind of was making that start?
I was a little bit surprised. I saw from his last start, he really attacked the zone. He threw 66% strikes, 66% first pitch strikes. He didn't walk anybody. So I think it's kind of been a start-by-start thing with Caleb and was trending upward. I think that he was out of his routine a little bit. Remember, he didn't start for 10 days. So, basically throwing live bullpens and extended bullpens and then going down to Florida and pitching for, a Cubs team against a Marlins team, first competitive game in almost 2 weeks. It's a tough task. And I think Caleb actually weathered the storm pretty well after the first inning. You don't obviously say it's a quality outing when somebody gives you 3 1/3, but after a first inning, when you throw almost 40 pitches to get 3 1/3 from them, kind of a blessing. It kind of saves the bullpen a little bit. So I think Caleb has great stuff. He's definitely trying to figure out some things mechanically. And he even said it during the post-game press conference. There's a lot of things running through his head. So just, simplify things and get on the mound and have that tunnel where you're blocking out everything and just throwing. And remember, he's still a young pitcher. He's 25 years old. And there are so many big league pitchers who on the first 4-10 starts in the big leagues struggled, got sent down, got optioned. I mean, Noah Syndergaard had happened to, Jack Flaherty had happened to. So it happens. The big leagues are a completely different animal, but are there things for him to work on? I think so. And I think from a mechanical standpoint and just being able to settle down mentally, those are things that, if he stays up in the big leagues, he'll have to work on. If he comes back down here, he'll certainly work on.
Now, some exciting news yesterday. A young man that's been on this podcast, someone we've been watching ever since that David Robertson trade, Ben Brown promoted to AAA. So that's got to be exciting for you to watch that young man pitch. But who else would you say has been doing pretty well as far as starters are concerned? Who could possibly then be the next guy up? Because with Tyone out, and we don't know how long, I'm sure they're going to be dipping down into AAA a little bit more.
Yeah, I one guy that definitely sticks out to me is as a top 30 prospect, Riley Thompson, who was really highly touted coming out of Louisville 2018. Didn't pitch in 2020, didn't pitch in 2021 due to a shoulder injury, was limited to innings in last year when he was with the Tennessee Smokies. But this year with the I-Cubs, man, he just throws 4 pitches, 5 pitches for strikes. He is a bulldog. I mean, he is a guy on the mound. He looks at the hitter and says, you know what? I'm going to throw you this pitch. You hit it, you can rename it. It's like the Rick Wild Thing Vaughn mentality from Major League. I mean, he is a bulldog, and the stuff's good. I mean, topped out at 97 in his last outing. His last start, 5 scoreless, hitless innings against Buffalo. Then he came in the game that Kyle Hendricks rehabbed for us, and he threw 2 scoreless innings. So he's like 11 strikeouts in his last 7 innings, and he hasn't given up a hit and a run. He's a guy that if he is healthy and if the shoulder is good, he is a big leaguer. He's really good. So just hoping that Riley Thompson stays healthy, but he's the guy that sticks out to me that, that guy's a big leaguer. He's going to help the big league club this year. Well,
you mentioned Kyle Hendricks, and one thing I talk to people is this is going to be a process. This is what you put, final line for Kyle Hendricks: 1.2, 6 hits, 5 earned runs, 3 Ks, 1 walk. Good news, fastball tapped out to 89.3. He looks healthy, and that's what you said. First outing in 10 months, going to be a process. What's it like having a guy like Kyle Hendricks in Iowa, and what effect do you think that has on the rest of the starters to be able maybe kind of to talk to him and have him around?
He's the best. He's the best. He is so personable. He is so energetic. He is so positive, and he just provides the veteran presence. I mean, even after his start, he was like, man, I was just so excited to get out there on the mound. Remember, it was a pretty serious shoulder injury. I mean, this is something that your mid-30s, there's a calculated risk if you're going to recover from that. And not only did he recover from that, but he's gotten a little bit stronger. The fastball velocity was about 1.5 miles faster than it was all of last year in his first competitive outing in 10 months. So I think that's only going to get better. Just seeing him out there on the mound, throwing the changeup, striking out 3 hitters, getting out of it healthy and feeling better. I did not care about the results. I cared about the stuff, and he looked better than his stuff indicated. And I think you'll see in the next couple of rehab outings that the stats will get better. His control will get better, and just being able to rear back and hit 90 to 91 and get the feel of that patented changeup. He's a welcome presence in the locker room. His energy is welcome. His experience is welcome. Anytime that you have a World Series champion in your starting rotation and here with the Cubs and you're on the cusp of reaching the big leagues, you're definitely going to pick the brain of somebody like that. And he's been more than welcome to anybody who will talk to him. Media, broadcasters like myself, pitchers, coaches. He's a tremendous presence.
Now, I am sure there's going to be some move today with all the arms used yesterday. Is there anyone that you see in the bullpen that could be of use? I mean, it looks right now, and this is, obviously, again, April, but if you're going to take a look at what is probably the biggest weakness on the current big league roster, it doesn't feel like the bullpen's really settled in and really use someone with some swing and miss stuff. Is there anyone in the bullpen right now? I know Bailey Horn just got promoted up along with
great.
Ben Brown, but is there anyone that you could see in the near-term future potentially getting a look from the Cubs?
Yeah, I mean, I have 2 guys that really stick out to me. Obviously, with Brandon Hughes on the injured list, they don't have a lefty in the bullpen right now, and the best lefty for the Cubs in the bullpen is Anthony Kay, former first-round draft pick. He's a guy who's had big league experience as a starter, as a reliever. Wipeout slider against lefties. It is disgusting, and he's a guy who throws 95 to 96. He can throw multiple innings. He's a bulldog on the mound. And again, I mean, situationally against lefties, he's pretty good. So he was a guy who sticks out to me in terms of a lefty to replace Brandon Hughes. And then Nick Birdie, somebody who hadn't thrown a competitive pitch in 3 years before coming into this season with some injuries. His first pitch of the season, 99.3 miles per hour. His last outing, he topped out at 101. So he's just getting stronger and stronger. And he's a fastball slider pitcher, so just getting the feel of the slider, for the first time pitching in 3 years. But in terms of pure stuff, back end of the bullpen stuff, he's the guy that sticks out to me. So it's Nick Birdie and Anthony Kay are the 2 guys that I think could help the big league team right now in their bullpen.
That's, like I said, that sounds like some good news to me. Is there anybody else that, if you're just looking at a stat sheet that okay, well, slow start, but now they're starting to pick it up a little bit?
Yeah. Brennan Davis was the guy who stuck out to me. I mean, he's a guy who's hitting 300 over his last 11 games. The strikeout rate is plummeting. I mean, he's striking out, I think, 10% of his at-bats over the last 15 games, so he's making hard contact. He had a huge series in Buffalo. He had an 0 for 3 game yesterday, but he also walked, hit by a pitch, stole a base, scored a run, had a couple nice catches in right field. 2 nights ago, had an RBI single through the right side. And I think it's just getting his timing, and he's making contact. He lined out the shortstop yesterday. I think he hit it like 106 miles per hour. So the BABIP gods haven't been overly kind to Brennan, and I think that they will even out. And he's hitting right now like a 270, 280 hitter over the course of the season. I've been pretty impressed with what I've seen really for the last 2 weeks. And again, the strikeout rate is plummeting. So he's making contact. He's making hard contact. And hopefully the balls will fall a little bit more soon. But he's the one that if you look at the stat sheet, you see him hitting 220, 215. You're like, oh, well, he's our number 3 prospect. He must be struggling. The numbers are misleading.
Yeah, that like I said, I always, love looking at your Twitter. And just so everybody knows, you got a new Twitter handle, Alex.
Voice of Cohen 2. Voice of Cohen 2. Voice of Cohen has been hacked. Tried to get it back. Elon Musk, told me personally. Obviously, can't let that happen now. But yeah, Voice of Cohen 2. I didn't want to get too far in the fray of different names, but yeah, follow for Iowa Cubs action. There has been a lot to talk about, and this is the best offense in minor league baseball right now. For an entire month, as I said, averaging 8 runs per game. You don't know what you're going to see when you come to the ballpark with them, and that's what makes it so much fun.
Well, today is going to be fun because you guys are going to be wearing your Copa Demonios jerseys, which I love. Yeah. They look sharp, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And every Sunday, kids run the bases, which is awesome. You have your Tuesday dollar dogs that are coming down there. You have your on Wednesday your Windy City bundle with Jethro Wings Wednesdays.
That's right.
And then you got a fun event coming up on May 13th, Saturday, May 13th, Marvel Superhero Night. Which the kids always love. You got Black Panther and Captain Marvel going to be here. So if anyone is listening and they want to have a fun time at the ballpark and take the kids to see their favorite Marvel superheroes, that's Saturday, May 13th against the Toledo Mud Hens. So that ought to be exciting as well.
Yeah, no, Crawly, you've been to Principal Park more recently than most fans, and it seemed like you had a nice time. And the weather's only getting warmer, so it's going to be a great atmosphere at the ballpark, and we got some great promotions coming up in May. In June, we have College Basketball Player of the Year, Caitlin Clark, coming down to Principal Park, a Hawkeye, so a lot of people are really excited about that. We have Thomas Ian Nicholas, Henry Rowan Gardner coming late June to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Rookie of the Year. So not only do we have the promotions, we have the team to come down and watch. And anytime that you can get to the ballpark and see Christopher Morel, Matt Mervis, I mean, there's a sense of urgency because, as you said, you don't know how long they're going to be there.
And I will tell you again, like I said before, you can watch on the Bally's app, you can watch on the MLB app, and of course, when you guys do when's your next marquee game? Do you know?
Yeah, it's going to be that series in May. I believe it's May 12th and May 13th. We have back-to-back day games.
And my favorite is the first inning. How is Alex going to get the Salsa King ad read in? That is one of my favorite things to do. It's my favorite, just Elise Menaker, Lance Brosdowski. You guys like salsa? My favorite, man. So,
well, you know what? There's a collection of answers. They could be like, no. I'm like, well, if you don't like salsa, I would urge you to retry this and give it one last chance with the Salsa King of Chicago. And it's a really good salsa. I mean, just based out of you guys. I mean, you obviously have a personal relationship to it, but no joke. I mean, it's really good, and I think it's a really nice link from Chicago to Iowa Cubs, Chicago Cubs, and we have a lot of fun with it.
Alex, I appreciate you spending some time with us today, and continue enjoying this fun season of Iowa Cubs baseball. And look forward to talking to you in the future, my friend.
I appreciate it, Crawly. Thanks for having me on.
This is the Fly the W670 podcast. Don't forget to listen, download, review. Most importantly, subscribe to our podcast. This is Season 2, Episode 32. Unfortunately, this is the Cubs meltdown in Miami as the Fish get the best of the Cubs Friday, Saturday, and Sunday down in South Beach. Cubs did not take their talents, Crawly, down to South Beach. So after the sweep, let's take a look at the standings in the National League Central. Here we go.
Yep, not good as the Pirates are just still on this unbelievable hot streak, 20-8. They haven't even lost double-digit games, and neither have the Brewers, 18-9. Think about the Brewers, man. They're sitting there and they can't catch them. I mean, just Pittsburgh just blew by them, and now the Cubs are at 14-13. They're almost at 500. They're 3-7 in their last 10, so they did well against the Padres, but they did bad in that series against the Dodgers, and now there's an absolute stinker in Miami. And then Cincy is starting to kind of bounce back a little bit. They're on a 5-game winning streak. They're 12-15. And the Cardinals continue to struggle, 10-18 in the basement, 3-7 on a 2-game losing streak. I'm still part of me is just like, when are these guys going to wake up? And you're starting to wonder if there's not some serious problems down in that boring old city of St. Louis.
All right, we're going to get to the upcoming series with the Nationals in just a second. But the good news, Crawly, we'll talk about some roster moves. And obviously, as you listen to our recap there, Cody Bellinger was reinstated on Friday.
Yeah, there was a lot of juggling this weekend, and that loud cheer you heard on Friday was Luis Torrens being DFA'd. So he is off the team. That actually frees up a 40-man roster spot. Now, what ends up happening then on Saturday, the Cubs recall Caleb Kililan, and they place Brandon Hughes on the 15-day IL retro to April 27th. He has that left knee inflammation. It was what has threw him off all during spring training, and it's what got him that late start in the season, and now it's flaring back up again. So they're going to have to figure that out, Dustin. So that was the move for Saturday. And then on Sunday, the Cubs called up lefty Ryan Barucki from Iowa. As you heard Alex Cohen talk about Ryan a little bit in the second segment, but he takes the open 40-man roster spot vacated by Luis Torrens. For those of you freaking out and wanting to see either Morel or Mervis, that it's right now interesting to see that Barucki will be here, and then they need a lefty, and then Caleb Kililan, like you said earlier, option to AAA. And so I like I said, probably not flying with the team to Washington, probably on that Southwest flight going to Iowa. So we'll see what happens.
All right, Crawly. So now the team is in the nation's capital. Big 4 games, right? Big 4-game set. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night, Thursday afternoon. Let's preview it.
Yeah, the Cubs took 4-6 from the Nationals last season. Both series were in August, a week apart. And Dustin, I've talked about this before. I hate that because, the Cubs were a phenomenal team in the second half. So sucks for the Nationals that they had to face them when they were red hot as opposed to in April or May. But it is what it is. When we look at the Nationals, last year they were 55-107. They do have some key additions from last season. Trevor Williams, a right-handed pitcher. Trevor Williams. You guys remember him from his short time with the Cubs. Another former Cub, third baseman Jaime Candelario, who was in the Cubs system. They got outfielder Corey Dickerson, first baseman Dominic Smith, and the key loss that they had last year was DH Nelson Cruz. So as we kind of look here at the NL East, and you take a look at the Washington Nationals, obviously from their moves last year, and they traded Juan Soto. We know that was a big one, but they are currently at last place, 9-17. They're 4-6 in their last 10 and on a 3-game losing streak. And we are hoping, Dustin, that this is exactly what the doctor ordered for the Cubs.
We're hoping for 3 out of 4, Crawly. That's what we're hoping. I mean, I think if you told me that on May 1st, the Cubs were going to be 1 game over 500, I'd have been pretty glad about that, and I think you would be too, yeah. Right? I mean, this was on paper, really, really tough schedule. But now, this week, they don't have a day off this whole week. They are playing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They got the Nationals in D.C., then the Marlins come to town, and this is a week where I think in the next 7 days, Cubs got to win 5 games if they're who we think they are.
Yeah, and so you take a look at the pitching matchups. You have left-hander Drew Smyly, 2-1 with the 321, going up against left-handed pitcher Mackenzie Gore. Mackenzie Gore's had a pretty good season so far. He's 3-1, and his ERA very similar to Drew Smyly's, a little better at 3.0. But when you look at the matchups and you're kind of saying to yourself, okay, this game right here to me is going to be the toughest of the 4 when you think about like matchups and stuff like that. So I'm really hoping that, Drew Smyly has done really great recently. Would love to see the Cubs do something here. The Nationals, they don't have a lot of guys that have seen Smyly, kind of small sample sizes. Their second baseman Chavez has, 6 at-bats, 333. And you have Victor Robles, center fielder. He's seen him 9 times at a 222. The right fielder, though, seems to have a little bit. Lane Thomas has a little bit of luck against him. He's had 6 at-bats, and he's batting .500. As far as the Cubs versus Gore, nobody's had more than 3 at-bats. So, small sample sizes on that one, so nothing to really kind of glean from those numbers right there. But like I said, Gore's been a guy that I've been kind of, a little bit. You're more impressed with what he's done so far, especially considering how bad of a team this team is. So Mackenzie Gore in his last 3 starts, he hasn't given up a lot of runs. 2 against the Angels on 412. He gave up 3 runs against Baltimore on 419. He took the loss on that one. And then he only gave up 1 run against the New York Mets going 6 innings on April 26th, so on his last start. So a guy that like I said, it isn't going to be easy, but, the Cubs, there's no reason that they can't, do well against him.
No, I am looking for big things from the Cubs offense, which has not been very good down in Miami, to say the least. This runners in scoring position stat, Crawly's got to be fixed.
Yeah, they were doing really good with it, and this last series was awful. And game 2 is the game where I think that, the Cubs offense, if you want to talk about the offense, there's no reason they can't knock Trevor Williams around a little bit. He's 1-1 with the 4.10 ERA. Hayden Wesneski, no one on the Cubs has nobody on the Nationals has seen Hayden Wesneski. As far as the Cubs, Tucker Barnhart has 16 at-bats, hits .375 against them. Cody Bellinger, 8 at-bats, .375. Ian Happ, 21 at-bats, it's .286. And so Dansby Swanson, 12 at-bats, .250, not the greatest there, but this is the game where the offense has to support Hayden, and Hayden's got to just kind of take that step forward, that next step that we're just waiting for him to really have it click in. You know what I mean?
Next step, Crawly, you nail it there. That's exactly what we need to find out. What's he going to do? What's he going to do in this next step? This is a winnable game. This is a lineup he should do good against, and I'm with you 100%.
Now, game 3, Marcus Stroman versus TBD, the legendary TBD. As far as people that have...
I love it, Crawly. Legendary TBD.
As far as people who have at-bats against Stro, Heimer Candelario, not bad, 11 at-bats. He's hitting .273. Taking a look here, once again, Lane Thomas has some pretty good numbers. If you look, 9 at-bats, he's hitting .556. And they have a catcher that has Ruiz. So if you're looking at Keibert Ruiz, and I always think of Cubert, that old video game, he's hitting .429. So a couple guys have seen him and have some decent numbers, but the thing with Marcus Stroman that has been tough to watch has been his lack of run support. Like, the guy is just not getting wins, and for whatever reason, sometimes there's always one guy that just really struggles to get run support. I mean, think about this. Against Oakland, he didn't get any decision. He gave up 0 runs, right, in 6 innings. Against Seattle, he gave up 2 runs in 6 innings. And the last start against the Dodgers was kind of a rough one, that was the one that was a little bit rough. But, I mean, and Stroman pitched good again against the Marlins. And so when I look at that, when you look at what he's done, he's always, even that game that he really didn't do that great against the Dodgers, the Cubs were still in it, just couldn't score runs. And so with Stroman right here in that start against Miami, 6.1, where are we at again? 2 earned runs. So he's just not giving up a lot of runs, but he's not getting run support.
No, he hasn't been getting it. But listen, he's been fantastic. He really has. Last start wasn't great, and we talked about that in the last episode. All right, you just talked about the famous TBD for the Nationals. In Game 4, we've got the famous TBD for the Cubs.
Yeah, let's. So who is it going to be, Dustin? Who do you want to see? I mean, we said Caleb Kililan.
Assad. I want to see Assad, or I want to see Alzolay start, and I want to build it from there. That's what I want.
Okay, so we got those are options. One option that interests me, that intrigues me greatly, Dustin, is a guy that we had on our podcast, Ben Brown. Ben Brown, if you listen to, and we talked about this in segment 2 with Alex, Ben Brown just got promoted up where he was dominating with Tennessee Smokies. I would love to see a Ben Brown start. That would make a very happy Crawly. to be able to see, because he's probably one of my favorite players as far as both what he has and just as a human being, just a really, really great guy. Would love to see him get the opportunity to get that start. We'll see what happens. As far as on the national side, Patrick Corbin, it hasn't been the greatest season for him so far. 1-4 with a 5.74 ERA. Looking at his last couple starts, he faced that mighty Pittsburgh team. He lost, but he gave up 3 runs in 5.1 innings. Against Minnesota, he gave up 3 runs in 7 innings, in 6 innings. And then against Cleveland, he gave up 2 runs. So it's not like he's really been doing bad as of late. So, hopefully he can, he'll struggle, but he got off to a slow start and he's been kind of warming it up a little bit. So that's the thing that we're looking at. He had a bad opening day start with 6 earned runs, but since then 4 earned runs. And then the last 3 starts, 2 earned runs, 3 earned runs, 3 earned runs. So he's starting to kind of do a little bit better. So hopefully the Cubs can do something, and we don't know who exactly is pitching for the Cubs. But like I said, if it's Ben Brown, I'm going to be super excited. Bellinger hits 273 against Corbin with at 11 at bats. You take a look at Trey Mancini in 11 at bats, 364. Swanson has 35 at bats against him, but only 257 average. So I know he doesn't like days off, but maybe, just saying, who knows?
All right, Crawly, before we wrap this baby up and get into the predictions, who's hot, who's not?
When we talk about hot for the Cubs, Cody Bellinger, we talked about that a little bit before, 357, 429, 833, 5 homers and 9 RBIs in his last 14 games. Nico Hoerner, that on-base streak still going, 333, 368, 492, 2 homers, 14 RBIs. As far as the not, Dustin, you talked about your disappointment in him, and Dansby's got to be disappointed in himself right now. In the last 14 days, 240, 415, 320. So you can see the on base is good, but he's not hitting, and he's not hitting for power. 1 homer, 2 RBIs.
Yeah, he's got it. He's got to step up. I mean, especially in that situation. Saturday just put me on tilt.
As far as the Nationals are concerned, hot. Joey Meneses, who does a lot of the DH in 306, 320, 408, 1 homer, 6 RBI. Alex Cohen, left fielder, 323, 447, 452 with 1 homer and 2 RBIs. Not Dominic Smith, first baseman, 216, 326, 324, 1 homer, 1 RBI. And then Victor Robles, center fielder, 214, 353, 321, no homers, 2 RBIs.
All right, Crawly, prediction time. 4 games in the nation's capital against the Nats. What's going to happen?
You know how much I hate 4-game series, and I'll always lean towards...
You hate 4-game series.
And I'll lean towards the split because that's usually how it plays. That's what I think is going to happen. I think it is going to be a split, unfortunately. I right now I'm just very nervous with the runners in scoring position situation. And some, like I said, somebody's got to get that big hit. Otherwise, that starts to wear on these guys. They all start pressing when you're in that situation.
All right, let me be Mr. Positive, Crawly. They're taking 3 of 4. Okay, they're taking 3 of 4, and don't be surprised if when we get back here on Thursday or Friday that they have swept.
I believe if they call Ben Brown up, they will take 3 of 4. If they do not call Ben Brown up, they will go 2-2.
There you go. You heard it. Ben Brown's Crawly's guy. Crawly, have a great rest of your Sunday, what's left of it. We will be back here to wrap up the National Series and then preview the Fish coming back into Chicago this weekend. That's a wrap. Season 2, episode 32 is in the books. The Cubs meltdown against the Fish from Miami. Don't forget to listen, download, review. Most importantly, subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Follow us on all the socials. You can email us, flythew670gmail.com. And now you can watch us on YouTube by subscribing to the 670 The Score YouTube channel.
Let's get back on this winning streak right here. Let's go back to taking some series. Go Cubs! Hey guys, it's Crawly. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Go Cubs!